UFC Denver, we've got the face-offs, we got the weigh-ins, and Jim and I did not have to cut our hair in order to make this video. Welcome, everybody. Jim, looking good. Looking good. We'll get over Tracy Cortez cutting her hair off, trying to make weight, and then holding her hair while she stood on the scale again. That made sense. Let's get to it, Jim. Break down these videos. We're going to start with Evan Elder and Darrius Flowers. I have no idea why this fight exists. I really don't. I've never seen a weird fight just out of nowhere on a Wednesday just pop up on here. But I will tell you right now, give me all of the Evan Elder. Darrius Flowers stinks. He's not good. And I know Elder's minus 410. Fine. I will find a parlay piece to put with it. Darrius Flowers, he's not good, man.
No.
You look at him as he's 12-7 in MMA. I remember losing money on him when he body slammed, whatever, the shoulder injury, and then it turns out the shoulder injury wasn't even from the slam. It was wrestling a little bit before that. Gets submitted by Jake Matthews, loses to Michael Johnson, and to be honest, looked pretty bad. The other thing that just doesn't look good for him is this guy's been around forever. Look at all these, amateur fights. He's taken a lot of wear and tear on the body. And to be honest, I haven't seen him get any better. And I've got Evan Elder, who I just think is so much better on the feet. Evan Elder is 1-2 in the UFC, but make no mistake, that should be 2-1. He was beating Nazim Sadikov, and then he got a cut, and the doctor stopped the fight. How often do you see a doctor stoppage on a cut UFC? Hardly ever. So I think it's Elder.
Be a good one.
Yeah.
It's got to be a good one.
Yeah. So he loses his debut. I feel like everyone does that. And I think he wins his next two fights, and I think this is going to be it's not going to be a romp, but he's going to piece Flowers up on the feet. So I'll be looking for a parlay piece for sure on Evan Elder. What's your take?
Flowers has no ground game, just none. And I know Elder's not a massive wrestler and all that stuff, but if this hits the mat, Elder's going to look like that minus 400 favorite really quickly. And you don't even need great grappling to look minus 400 against Darrius Flowers. That fight against Michael Johnson was pretty pathetic. I mean, if you want to look at a fight of what you need to do to give Michael Johnson a win, Darrius Flowers checked every box in that fight and let old man Johnson get a W. Look, there's a Jay Ellis on Darrius Flowers' record. That's a red flag in itself.
I didn't realize that.
If you see the name Jay Ellis twice, never got there, but tried. I'm not really confident in your career really hitting the highest of highs. I like Elder. We liked Elder last time. We were on him in his last fight. Cashed on him again. I think this is. I love your theory. Tell everyone your theory on this card and why this fight is on this card.
Well, you've got a lot of fighters that they're getting ready to cut. This is we're entering the time of year where they're looking at some of these fighters and they're going, okay, we got guys that are 0-3, 1-3, 1-2 who've looked terrible, who haven't put on good performances, who have tons of baggage, in and outside the octagon, which we'll get to a few of them here. And Contender Series is coming along. We're watching Fatima Kline get her shot in the UFC, and I think this is this is the time of year where UFC is going, okay, out with the old, in with the new. And Darrius Flowers 0-2, and to be honest, fight not very exciting fights, getting submitted by Jake Matthews and then getting ragdolled by Michael Johnson, not exciting. So if you're 0-3 and you're not that competitive, what do you bring to the table? They would much rather be paying, a Contender Series guy. So I think they're putting some of these fighters. They're all over the card. We'll get to them. We'll have a flag. Go bing. This is one. They're on the chopping block. So, I think Darrius Flowers is one of them. I don't think Elder is 1-2 when we had the stoppage. But I guess you want to make the case. Evan Elder goes 1-3 and loses to Flowers. Yeah, that might be enough for Uncle Dana to cut him and be like, we got to make room for the Contender Series. And the other thing that we had talked about is they're putting the Contender Series people in way sooner than they used to. But I don't know if you guys remember when they were first doing Contender Series, you'd have to wait 6 months, 9 months before you got your shot. They're putting losers into fights. They're putting people with canceled Contender Series fights into UFC fights soon. So they're just they're like, chop, chop. We do not have time for you guys to sit around and not entertain people. So we'll take the cheap Contender Series people. So that's probably what this fight is. This is a loser leaves town or gets close to
Both
leaving
people
town.
leave town. It could be.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think Elder's on the chopping block because I think his style is a little bit exciting. It's on the feed. It's not boring. I think his cardio will be fine. But Flowers, yeah, he wins. Done.
Yeah, to me, it's a show me spot for Elder. He goes out here, he wins this fight, and looks good. UFC says, okay, we can invest in this guy. I think they're looking for a reason to cut Flowers. That's why this fight was made.
For sure. So, all right, let's move on to Josh Fremd and Andre Petroski. What do you like on this one?
Terrified of picking a side in this one, especially after face-offs. Josh Fremd is huge. Both guys' cardio stinks. Just not really liking a side. I think the only way I could bet this is the plus money on Fremd. I've seen a lot of people saying that it's a buy low spot on Petroski, and I just think that's a little reckless to say. Like he's some kind of big contender that's going to be that should be a minus 400 favorite. Like it doesn't add up to me. The math doesn't work, And at the end of the day, gambling is also math. And I don't think it's a discount. I just think they're two bad fighters. I've never been impressed with Petroski. He's ripe to get beat every single fight. Got no cardio. I think it's a live bet fight. I kind of have the same stance I had earlier in the week where I think you just watch it. If it's an early finish, so be it. You keep the money in your pocket. You didn't win any, but you didn't lose any. And you just watch this and kind of see who's going to be able to get their game plan off. If you see Josh Fremd on his back early, it could be a bad night for Josh Fremd. And if Petroski can't get the takedown, Josh Fremd is going to put on him. So, yeah, live bet, nothing special.
Yeah, Petroski doesn't have great cardio and, regular altitude. So I'm imagining it's not going to be that good. I like the over 1.5. It's minus 175. I think these guys in the early part of the fight, I think it's going to be pretty competitive. I really worry about Petroski gassing.
Yeah, it's a big worry.
Well, you worry about him anywhere, but it's Denver. So I don't want to take the over 2.5. I don't want to take fight goes the distance. But I think over 1.5. I think these guys will be pretty competitive in the first. I don't see anyone having huge strike advantage. I don't see anyone have a huge submission advantage over the other one. I think defensively they both can compete. So over is going to be a theme on this card. Luana, Santos, and Mariya Agapova. Flag here on Agapova. God, she's a mess. Don't want to make light of what she's been through. She famously fought Julian Anderson just so she could get a paycheck to pay for her surgery. A torn ligament. Didn't go well. She's out for a while, comes back, loses to a 17-year-old, 31 seconds at Karate Combat. Honestly, this is the definition of just a paycheck fighter at this point. That's what's going on here. For me, it's Luana Santos. It's not really that close. I think Agapova, if she's going to try and win, it's going to be a flurry in the first round. If she doesn't get it, good luck. Her cardio is terrible. Her ground game's even worse. Santos isn't that impressive to me, but she's way better than Agapova. And listen, my heart goes out to Agapova, but my guess is if she loses, this will be her last fight in UFC, and then greener pastures will be for her. What's your take on this fight?
Fight under 2.5 rounds. I'm not willing to lay this number on Santos just yet in her career. And I think it's gotten steep.
We'll get a couple bourbons in you and then get some of that liquid courage, and all of a sudden it looks like a great parlay piece.
After we watch the first, the Josh Fremd fight go to the distance, we'll say, wait a minute, our reads are good. I have an interesting way. I think you take Santos in round 2 and round 3. I think you could play it that way, and it's a better number. I'm just trying to look at ways to get off that money line. I just think this fight ends, man. It's all contingent on Agapova. To me, she's one of those fighters where you don't need value on both sides for an under. We have those fighters. Derek Lewis, Mariya Agapova. Who else is an under god? Your boy, Jimmy Flick. You don't need finishing ability on the other side. We got Jimmy Flick. So I think Agapova fits right into that realm, and it's a great number. Minus 140 for the under 2.5.
She
Love
lasted
it.
31 seconds against a
That's what I
17-year-old
mean.
in the karate
and
combat.
if we're right, and it is a cash grab, she has no problem getting choked unconscious. What she will do, if it's a cash grab, she cannot afford to have her arm broken or her knee torn apart. There will be a very quick tap. If our assumptions are correct, and this is a cash grab, she'll get out of there early if she's going to get out of there. And you know she's going to go for it early. Of course she is.
Oh, she will. Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
So, I mean, you get all the finishing upside you need from Mariya Agapova in this fight.
Absolutely. 4% UFC best bet is up over at wagertalk.com. Go ahead and hit the like button. Leave us a comment. Tell us who you like on this card. Tell if you agree or disagree. At the end of the show, we'll go over our Parlay Busters and we'll go over our woulda, coulda, shoulda. But most important, guys, get that 4% UFC play. 18-10 run. We've been absolutely on fire in all sports. We're up at 69 units for the year in all sports, and MMA and UFC has been a really big part of that. Hit 66% of our 4% plays over the last 6 months, so it's not even a small sample size. It's just kind of what we've been doing. If we have any more plays on that card, everything will be attached to that play. So it's one price. You get all plays for UFC Denver. Love this 4% best bet. Once again, 18-10 short-term run, 66% last 6 months on 4% play. So go grab that over at wagertalk.com. Let's keep going with Montel Jackson and Damon Blackshear. Where do you stand on this fight?
I like this fight to go the distance, and then I saw weigh-ins, and now I love it to go the distance.
Amen.
Absolutely
Amen.
love it. Love it to go the distance. These guys are going to be very evenly matched in this fight, I believe, and I don't see the massive finishing ability from both sides. If I have to hear one more time about Blackshear's twister, like people lose their mind over a twister, and I get it, but it's amazing. It's amazing that you can get someone in it, but I'm not interested in fighters that they hang their hat on this one submission. I'm just not. I'm not feeling it. I think these guys are both good, but not great. So once this cardio starts to go, not cardio, gas cardio, but just where you lose your pep. You lose that finishing ability. Only way I could see it possibly finishing is going to be Blackshear, a late submission, if Montel really has to gas. But I don't know if Blackshear is going to get him on the ground very easily. I really don't. So love this fight to go the distance. Two very evenly matched guys. Set it and forget it.
I mean, could we get Montel Jackson an opponent, that can hit back? Look at these guys. Jesse Stricker, JB Bezos, and Ronnie Yaya. Okay, he fights once a year. We can't get him we can't do better than Ronnie Yaya a year ago. Gosh, man. I wish Montel Jackson would fight more. I find his style to be pretty good, but whatever. That's his jam. Over is the only way I'm playing this one. And yes, I'm banking on the high altitude having effect on most fights. And this one is one of them where I think after first round, I don't see any of them having the energy for a finish. I don't see the knockout coming from anyone. And the other thing, man, once you get around 2 and 3, you get so sweaty at that high altitude. It's just hard to grab a neck and an arm, and everything's just slipping around. So I'm with you on the over. I think that's the only way that you could confidently play that one. Speaking of another over, Jasmine, Jasudavicius, and Fatima Kline mentioned there's lots of fighters like Fatima Kline out there waiting for the chance to jump into the UFC when you cut someone like Agapova. So she gets her shot. 6-0. Just a quick reminder, this is a person that has been on the grappling scene, for a while. So this is not somebody that only has 6 MMA fights and that's it. So great cardio from Fatima Kline. I don't think her striking is that good. Love her cardio. She's aggressive. She's got that dog in her. Has not fought really good competition. That's a big, big hole. I mean, she's beaten who they put in front of her, but going to decision against Romero, okay, she gets a late finish against Sarakova, who's 5-3, but decision. Jasmine Jasudavicius, I mean, she, to me, is a little bit better. But we got a lot of decisions on her resume as well, so I think this fight goes for a while. You like Jasmine to win this one, and you're getting really good odds. Why do you like Jasmine?
This is just more so the bet on a Kline. I like Jasmine. I think she's really starting to round out who she is a little bit. And there has to be something to be said with these younger fighters when they realize what they are good at and they stick to it. And they try to make their improvements in their other realm, but they're not ego-driven enough to where now I have to be a kickboxer. You know, if you go to Thailand, all of a sudden now you have to fight like a Thai fighter. No, you don't have to. You can still mix in your wrestling and go from there. I thought at weigh-ins, Kline looked a little soft. And it probably has to do with the fact that it's in this weight class. It has to do with short notice. I think the physicality edge for Jasmine is going to pay dividends in this fight in round 2 and round 3. Fatima can have great cardio, but Jasmine's a big girl. This is also another time where the Tapology stats and UFC stats lie, because there's a definite slight height advantage for Jasmine. She's thicker. She's bigger. She's built for this weight class. This is not Kline's weight class. And I'm not going to bet on a debuting fighter not fighting in their natural weight class. Sometimes you have to do certain things to get your foot in the door. In life and in business and in your career, and this is exactly what Kline is doing. You say it all the time. When the UFC calls, what do you say?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll take it.
I'll take it.
We haven't told you the opponent. I don't care.
Don't care.
Don't care if it's Makachev. I'll take it.
I'll take it. It'll get me at least another fight in the UFC if I
Get
say
me a
yes.
contract,
Exactly.
yep.
Get me a contract. Also get you into the UFC PI. Gets you with their nutritionists, all these things. I think Kline is a legitimate prospect. This is a case of too much too soon. It's that simple. So I like Jasmine. I like Jasmine by decision. Very much.
Josh Van and Charles Johnson. What do you like in this fight?
Another surprise at weigh-ins. I knew that we were going to have a height advantage for Johnson, but it's a large height advantage, a very large height advantage. Johnson should win this fight with 2 movements.
Okay.
A long jab and a snappy leg kick. Now, if Charles Johnson's camp and him can realize this, that's the big question now, isn't it? I don't believe that Josh Van is going to have the power to put Johnson down. Nobody really has. And the fact that he has this height advantage, for Van to touch the chin, he's going to be having to punch upward. And when you have to punch up, that just takes off your power. Mix in the fact that we're at altitude. I love Josh Van. I think he's a great prospect. This size difference really, I think, leans Charles Johnson here in this fight. And it's so strange that we're sitting here again where all we wanted to do was fade Charles Johnson. But look, the guy came out last fight. You know, you got to remember what Johnson also is. He had a brand new baby. He was trying to get all those fights in right before that baby came. And even after the baby came, he took another short notice fight. Now he's kind of settled in with his personal life, training regularly. I think Johnson wins a close decision in this. I'm not willing to lay that price on Josh Van in this situation. It's all about the situation, and I'm just not willing. So my pick to win is going to be Johnson. The plus 3.5 on Johnson is interesting because Charles Johnson, I can see him stealing 1 in this fight. Josh Van is also a slow starter. So he could give away round 1 pretty quickly all across the cards, and then you're sitting pretty as long as he doesn't get finished.
Charles Johnson, we made this joke. He's probably made the most money over the last couple of years. I would actually say, without a shadow of a doubt, he's fought the most minutes.
Minutes, yeah.
15,
Oh, yeah.
15. The guy's, this is his 9th fight in 2 years. Let me look at 15, 15, 15, 15, 15. Jimmy Flick, and then 15, 15. Guy's been in he knows the octagon better than anybody. So I'm with you that it's really close. I would love the plus 3.5 on anybody in this fight. I don't know. I think I'm not a Josh Van guy yet. I'm intrigued, but I just don't like when I'm told what my eyes aren't really seeing. I see him beat, Felipe, that's great. But I see him go to decision against Borjas and win a split decision against Algas. So
I love how you worded that. Love how you worded that.
Yeah, you'll forgive me if I'm not there yet on Josh Van being minus 245. I know I'm going to be terrified if I have a minus 245, ticket in my pocket here, and you see Josh Van start to slow down in round 3 and Charles Johnson not slowing down, because Charles Johnson I don't think is going to slow down this altitude. It's close. Values on the Johnson, but I think the plus 3.5. I think you're onto something with that one. Here, 2 flags here for Cody Brundage and Abdul Razak Alhassan. I mean, listen, this is the UFC being like, all right, you guys. This is like the scene in the Batman movie when the Joker breaks the pool stick and tells the 2 guys, we got room for one of you.
We got one spot.
We got one spot. Brundage, Alhassan, the UFC has room for one spot. Who takes it here? Who gets the one spot? Who gets to stay in the UFC after this fight?
2 things before we dive into this fight real quick. This is why we like doing this show on Fridays post weigh-ins, because you get your reads. And the other thing we haven't spoken about is that this card's not going to be in the Apex. We're going to have a big cage. So one thing we just remember that we're at the big cage. We're not the Apex when you're looking at your totals and method of victories here. That being said, at weigh-ins, Cody Brundage is huge compared to Alhassan. And look, if he gets on top of him, it is a wrap. If he doesn't get on top of him, it is a wrap. I really wanted to be contrarian with this and think about an over 1.5 and kind of go against the grain because I feel like everybody's going to be on this one to end quickly. But sometimes you are what you are. And I think these guys are what they are. And they're going to come out and one guy's going to be taking a nap about 5 minutes into this fight. And it's going to be over. So I like Cody. I said it on Monday. You're going to give me plus 140 in this fight with the bigger guy who has the more. And I'm sick of hearing about Abdul's judo black belt. Stop talking about it.
Give me a break.
Enough. Stop.
It's the worst black belt ever.
It's all I've heard all week. He's a judo black belt. I don't care. He doesn't use judo. He's done maybe 2 throws. He doesn't hold people down. He doesn't wrestle. So I don't care what kind of black belt you have. He's a striker. And he even said it in his interview. I love judo, but then I discovered my power. He said this a day ago. Forget about the black belt. Cody gets on top. He probably ends him. Stays standing. Cody gets knocked out. Pretty simple fight.
Yeah, here's what I don't like about Alhassan. Look who he's beaten. Jericho in 17 seconds, and then the only other win recently is a guy that was willing to stand on the feet and go toe-to-toe throwing punches because, Claudio Ribeiro hates the ground just as much as Alhassan. Then you got Joe Pyfer. Pyfer obviously not scared of the ground. Split decision to Buckley. Loses to Malkoon. There's a ground guy. Chaos gets, knocked out early, and then Lazez. And so I actually lean over in this one. I think that if they both survive the first few minutes, I actually wonder if they're just both tired to where they can't finish the other one. Cody Brundage's run here is really quite something. Gets breaks beaten off by Oleksiejczuk. Gets submitted by Rodolfo. Quits in the fight against Dumas. Quits in the fight against Malkoon, but gets awarded the win on quite possibly one of the worst reffing decisions in the history of UFC. I still struggle to think of a worse reffing decision on that one. And then, so what does UFC do? They're like, all right, let's give him Zach Reese. Let's give him this young guy with little to no experience because Zach Reese fights last 2 minutes, coming off Contender Series. All right, Cody, go out there. If you win, you can get another fight, but most likely this will be a tune-up for Zach Reese, so we can build one of our young guys, and Zach Reese holds on to an arm too long, and Cody Brundage slams him in a 1 in a million chance. Then he takes the Bo Nickel fight. He's doing all he can to hang on to that roster spot. And so UFC says, thank you for taking the Bo Nickel fight. We'll give you Alhassan. We'll give you a fighter that you got a chance against. I think the value is on Brundage. Plus 142 is gross and as disgusting as that is. If he is serious about continuing his UFC career, the second that bell rings, he's run over and grab the 2 legs of Alhassan and take him on the ground. This should be on the ground at the 4-minute, 50-second mark. It just should. But we know if Cody Brundage faces adversity, he will quit. So if he gets hit a couple times hard, look out. So I got to be honest, I just will not bet my hard-earned money on either one of these 2 guys. I just can't bring myself to hit submit or walk up to the window or just do anything where I have my money that I worked really hard to and putting it on Cody Brundage or Abdul Razak Alhassan. So Won't be in the deck of cards for me. Christian Rodriguez.
See how many bourbons we get to. I haven't got there yet either, Cody.
I
know I'm picking them, but can't get there yet.
I swept the PGA card this week. Life is pretty good. I do not need to have too much action on this on this card. I'm perfectly fine with sitting out some of these. Christian Rodriguez and Julian Erosa. Julian Erosa, his flag is this lack of chin. Gets torched against Caceres, gets torched against Padilla, gets torched against Ramos, and Ramos inexplicably Ramos was one step away from putting himself in his own guillotine choke. That's how bad Ramos's move was, but he knocked Erosa down. Erosa's chin is absolutely 100% completely gone, and I don't feel bad saying that. Question for you, Jim. Can Christian Rodriguez exploit it? That's the question on this fight.
That's the question. Under 2.5 is plus 114. If you think Christian Rodriguez can exploit it, and let's go a little deep in here. Give me Erosa. Give me Erosa for a second.
Okay, let's talk Erosa.
Let's go Erosa. So when has Erosa gone to decision? Let's see who he fought. Hakeem Duwadu, all muscles, all show, no go. Can't get a finish, right?
Okay.
Yep. The Steven Peterson fight was just ugly. That was an ugly look for both of those guys. Okay, other than that, we got a finish against Sean Woodson. It wasn't round 3, okay? So it is over our 2.5. And we have the finish against Nate. What a great fight, right? But again, the guy gets clipped in every fight. That Sung Woo Choi fight, my God. They got... Yeah. It's just, why pick a side? Take the under if you think Erosa's chin is gone, and take the plus money.
We don't need to think.
Something happens.
We don't need to think Erosa's chin is gone. It is gone. It's gone.
Well, then if it's gone, then you're betting on Christian Rodriguez, and maybe we're gonna look at this line and say, man, why didn't we go harder on it? I think that Erosa can lock a sub up out of nowhere. And I know that Rodriguez is very, very hard to finish. And I know people are piling on Rodriguez, which makes me like the under 2.5 more. Because if Erosa's going to lose a fight, it's going to be by finish. That's how he's going to lose it. Yeah. So why chase the minus 230 and parlay it? Play the under 2.5 at plus money. If you stick to a strategy like that throughout the year, your wins and losses are going to offset much, much better than laying minus 230 in a parlay.
Love it. Yeah, we look here at Rodriguez, and obviously the controversial win against Bulgarian. Really good performance against Simon. I mean, I would say really good performance against Rosa, but he was so close to being finished in round 1, and then, he wasn't the most dominant. Like, Rosas was just exhausted in rounds 2 and 3. Rodriguez didn't have to do a whole lot. It was a very savvy performance. Gets finished against Weems. But it's be interesting. I mean, Rodriguez, this is your chance to get a win by knockout in the UFC. You're not going to get many more chances like this to put a KO on your. Yeah, Rodriguez. It should be Rodriguez. Rosa does have a lot of those submission, but Rodriguez, I just don't think is going to put himself in harm's way. So Rodriguez is the pick, but again, I'm not betting on it. But yes, the under 2.5 is probably the best way to go. Gabriel Bonfim and Undlusa. You got a guy who bailed against Brian Battle, which, from a pride perspective, I get it. That wasn't, a great look from him. From a strategy perspective, my God, did he get a gift? And I might have done the same thing too. When you're just getting the brakes beaten off you, and you can say, "Get me out of here. This isn't my day." Yeah. That eye poke was like the most generous cash out button DraftKings has ever given. Do you know what I mean? It's so. Yeah. But you've got Lusa, who's shorter. Bonfim, this guy's not exciting. My guess is he's going to try and wrestle and clinch and slow down Bonfim. And, if he does that, if he wins, it's going to be by decision. I don't know. Do we think Bonfim bounces back? We called this against Dalby. If you don't get Dalby out in the first round, you're done. That's just kind of Nicholas Dalby. But also Bonfim. I mean, listen, this guy's just made a career of really, really quick finishes, and the one time in the UFC, someone took him to round 2, he lost. I don't know if Luce has got that in him, but this would be the red flag on Bonfim. I actually think this is a sneaky over. I think Bonfim's camp is going to make some adjustments and be like, you've got to have some energy in rounds 2 and 3. If you don't get him out of there in round 1, you've got to save some energy. Couple that with the new gloves. Couple that with this is in altitude, and couple that with I think we're getting a really, really good price at over 1.5. And couple that with Luce I'd be telling him the same thing I'd telling Brundage, like, you better go over there and try and get that dude wrapped up and close the distance and get him on the ground and stay out of the way of some of those shots. So over 1.5 would be the only way I would look at playing this one, because I would tell you I'm not playing Bonfim in any type of parlays. What do you think on this fight?
The lines in this fight make absolutely zero sense. Like, every which way you can look at a betting line. Gabriel Bonfim minus 135 by finish.
Yeah, no
against
thanks.
a guy who's never been finished? No, I'm okay. Angelusa at plus, 400 by finish, when you got a guy who death gassed. That makes no sense. I'm still not playing it, but it makes no sense. Nothing makes sense in this fight. And I'm shocked that people are so willing to parlay Gabriel Bonfim together right now in a prove-it-to-me spot that you deserve to be here. He reminds me of a Abus Magomedov, where he's just killing everybody. And then the second that he has to show cardio, he folds up. It's same the Dalby fight with Bonfim and the Strickland fight against Abus is the same fight. It's the same exact fight. Win in the first round, and then all of a sudden you got no cardio left. And I'm not going to bet on this. If he proves it to me now, then I know for the future. But not putting my money anywhere near that minus. If anything, I'm taking the plus money on Luce. I think it's a recency bias spot. Everybody's down on him. And when the market swings one way, we want to go the other way. That's across the board. You never want to be where everybody else is.
What do you think Bonfim's gameplay? You think he's going to try and blitz him off the bat, try and get a crazy submission or anything? What do you think
Well, here's the thing. I don't think that Luce is going to get in close. I think he's going to play on the outside a little bit. And if Bonfim crashes the pocket, I think that plays right into Luce's game plan, where he could clinch him up and get him against the cage. If you see any kind of cage grappling, I see it coming from the Luce side. On the ground, I know Bonfim has these submissions, but I don't see him as this controlled, calculated grappler.
It's a different ground
Right?
style, isn't it?
It's
Yeah.
I'm going to try to look for a finish every second that I'm on the ground, and that is exhausting. And it gives up position. Always position before submission, period. Across all weight classes, all grappling, all combat sports. Position over submission. That's how you lose fights. How many times have we seen a guy get a takedown in the third round when it's 1-1, and they go for a submission, and you just say, if you just would have sat there for 2.5 minutes, you win the fight.
Yeah.
You don't have to be boring,
Happens
but don't go
all the
for a
time.
guillotine. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
all
So
the
I think I trust Luce to hold position more. So minute-wise, I think he could win the minutes, and the finishing equity comes from Bonfim. I hope he learned something. I don't think he did. I think he's going to come out the same way as he did before.
We got a big rivalry coming up in this next fight. This is like Duke, North Carolina. It's Jim versus Gene Silva. So
You're hyping this up even worse now. Now I'm getting more fired up about it.
interesting matchup. Fairly short notice for Gene Silva. He just fought a couple weeks ago. I'll let you go first. Drew Dober, Gene Silva. What's your take?
I think a tiger doesn't change his stripes. That's what I think. I thought about it. I listened to both these guys' interviews. This has been a fight that I've been looking into since last week. Watched everything I possibly could on every single guy. I don't know. You brought up a great point. For them to take this fight, they either know something or they want to make some quick money. So take this short notice fight against Dober. It's one of the two things. He was also saying that he was hanging out, eating, and celebrating, and it's like a day or two after, his manager calls and just says, I got you a fight. He's like, okay, when? This weekend. Okay, sounds good. Silva flat out said in his interview, look, I'm a brawler, I'm a fighter. I'm not going to fight any differently. I'm going to come out and do what I do, and that's go after Drew Dober. He's going to. I think this is too much too soon. I think this is a bad career move. Hopefully he's getting paid a good amount of money to keep a fight on this card. Drew Dober has been dying to fight in Denver. He's a Denver boy. He's from Colorado. They needed to keep Dober on this card. So I thought it was very interesting as well that they offered him 5 different fighters. He said yes to all of them, and all the other ones declined. If it's true. And we have to take it with a grain of salt, but it kind of explains a little bit, reading the tea leaves, of why it's Gene Silva. You call the guy that you know is going to say, yes, let's do it, at that point when nobody else of legitimacy wants to. Nowhere on a bet yet. I haven't bet this fight yet. I have too much invested in wanting to fade this guy to say that I'm super confident. Haven't got there yet. I like Dober. I think he's going to get this to round 2. And I think we're going to see him take over as the fight goes on. That's my prediction. No bet for me yet.
I think the sneaky play is the over 1.5. How many times have we been seeing like some of these fights that we just fully expect like to go under and they just don't? The other thing, these dudes are tough. I mean, these guys are really tough. Silva took Jourdain's best shots and didn't even phase him. He laughed at it. Dober can take an ass kicking. The only times he's been finished outside of Matt Frivola, knockout is submissions, and that doesn't seem to be Gene Silva's game. And sometimes when we have these two strikers, they kind of know the other one's tricks, and neither one of them wants to be on a highlight. So you end up with this kind of like, do we really go for the gusto here in round 1? And then once they hit a certain point, the altitude, the gloves, I just wonder if that finishing ability is just not there. There's also something, this isn't this case, but I was upset with myself that I didn't put something on the Diego Lopez, Dana Ige to go the distance. It feels like these short notice fights, there's almost like a respect, like this is kind of a gimme for these guys. Like Gene Silva, this is a gimme. He did the UFC a solid. If he loses,
it's a win-win for him.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
like Dan Ige and Diego Lopez, they did not have to go hard in that fight. It was like the fact we're even fighting means we got a great payday, and no matter who wins or loses, our rankings aren't going to change. And then was that fight even ever close to being finished? No, it wasn't even remotely close. But you heard, what was the narrative? Ige short notice. Oh, this fight ain't going the distance. Oh, they're going to come out. I just wonder if Gene Silva on short notice comes out a little tentative. I wonder if Dober wants to come out fast but realizes pretty quick, I can't get too reckless with this guy, and you get a tentative, kind of first round. I like the over 1.5. I think most people fully expect this to not go the distance. And, it's funny you mentioned, doing something stupid in round 2 or round 3. Dober was going to beat Moicano. Yeah. He inexplicably goes for a takedown and ends up losing the fight. We had a really good joke. Drew Dober's attempt to take down Moicano in round 3 may have been the second dumbest move of the year. First was Jalen Turner against Moicano. So Moicano really could be 0-2, should be 0-2 in these last 2 fights. So that's kind of an interesting one. I like the over 1.5. I wouldn't blame you for Dober. I think it might be a little bit too much as well. Dober will go to war. We haven't seen it with Silva. Maybe Silva's up for it. Maybe Silva loves it and puts on a good show. But, man, if I were to just tell you, hey, this is going to make it to round 3, I would go, okay, now I'm leaning Dober. Because I think Dober's...
100%.
The longer
we haven't
the fight
even seen
goes.
the round 3. According to Drew Dober, he doesn't want a first round finish. He wants to see how long he can go with this guy. So I think
over 1.5.
Yeah, it sounds like it, right?
This is great.
This could be good.
Great. Slightly to Dober, but I like Dober 1.5. So Ponzinibbio, Salikov, Jim. One of these guys has got to go. There's not room for the roster for both Ponzinibbio and Muslim Salikov. Anytime you can put a 37-year-old and a 40-year-old in a co-main event, you have to do it. I think Salikov is toast. He looked so dumb. Not dumb, but like, come on, at face-offs, did that look like a guy who's ready for a 3-round UFC fight?
His weigh-in looked horrible as well. He was sucked out. He looked miserable.
He looked like, Jim, honestly, he looked like some of the guys on the lake that I live on that are retired, that drive around the lake on their boats drinking McCormick's Gym room temperature. And there is a guy that does that. But yeah, so you got Salikov. Listen, when your big win in the last couple of years is Andre Fiallo, who, as we joked earlier, Andre Fiallo is getting knocked out at UAE
Five in a row. Okay.
So it's not that good. Losing in round 1 to Randy Brown is terrible. He was so gassed against Dalby, gets knocked out against Jing Liang. I like Ponzinibbio a lot in this one. This is how bad this fight is. Ponzinibbio is 37 years old. It's a much younger fighter. So we got the youth advantage on there. He got it to round 3 against Holland before he got knocked out. I like that he's taken a lot of time off. I thought he looked pretty decent. Win against Morano was a little bit suspect, but he showed he can get it done in the third. And these 2 losses to Pereira and Jeff Neal, split decisions. What do we always say about split decisions? One judge. One judge changes 1 round, and these 2 are wins. So I think it's Pons in a very boring fight. I just think Salikov is going to be exhausted before round 1 is even over. 40 years old, not looking good. Didn't look good at weigh-ins in Denver. I think he just completely gasses and will have nothing in the tank for rounds 2 or 3. So for me, it's Pons. What's Pons? It's not even minus 200.
Yeah, it's.
Come on.
I'll straight up say it. This is gonna make my card. I'm gonna be going in on Ponzinibbio here. The more and more that we break this fight down, I mean, it's probably the 5th or 6th time we talked about this fight in 2 weeks. Yeah, I can't with Salikov. I just can't. I feel like the pink slip's already filled out. Let's just get this fight over. They're going to hand it to him on his way out of the cage. That's it. And
let's also remember, on the way in the cage.
Look, he's 40 years old on the way in. Hold on to this while you walk in there. Give it to your corner. Have him fill it out for you. He very well could be retiring. We don't know. He hasn't said anything, but he's 40 years old. Long career. You don't have to have, the writing on the wall is there. It's coming. This fight kind of writes itself. And honestly, in going back and look at it, I don't put as much stock in Ponzinibbio not looking great against Morano. Because there's something you said as well when we were talking about this. That was a short notice fight. And we've seen this. You just talked about it with the last fight. It was a short notice fight and it throws everybody's game plan off. It just does. So you spin it that way, and you look at the fact that he was able to get a finish in round 3. That's almost like a plus for Ponzinibbio. Okay? Yeah, I know he's 37, but let's face facts. Who's got more gas in the tank? It's certainly Ponzinibbio. You're right. I don't think Salikov has gas after 3 minutes. It's just going to be it. Ponzinibbio has to block 3 spinning techniques, and then he's going to be all over him. That's all he's got to do.
I would say, once Salikov, so Salikov's going to throw a spinning back fist or something, and it's going to be okay. I don't know if it's the second or the third one, but he's going to throw one, and his arm's not going to be locked, and it's just going to look really lazy.
Yes.
That's when you know it's over. That's when you know exactly. Salikov is done. It's this lazy where, it's not locked, it's not crisp, it's kind of this flailing. That is when you know Salikov is out of here, done. So it's Pons on that one. So Rose Namajunas, Tracy Cortez. Cortez taking this on short notice. Fairly diabolical, I'll just say, for the UFC to put Tracy Cortez and Luana Santos on the same card. I'll leave it at that. But so Cortez doesn't quite make weight, has to cut her hair, is crying, is a mess. We find out maybe your heart's not completely into fighting. I don't know. The more and more the writing's on the wall, it does seem like Rose is the rightful pick. And it's 5 rounds. What do we know about Tracy Cortez in 5 rounds? Not much. What do we know about Rose in 5 rounds? She could do it all day. The more and more we get closer to fight, the more and more I'm leaning Rose. And I'm getting more and more confident with each thing that I see from Tracy Cortez. What do you think?
You could look at this whole thing, one of two ways with Cortez. It's a horrible situation for her. We've talked about Agapova being in a tough spot all week. But this really is a tough ask for Tracy Cortez, a very tough ask. Rose even said, she was preparing for Macy. She said the dynamic difference between Macy and Tracy is very, very different as far as their style. But also, Macy is about, 20 times more dangerous than Tracy. I don't see Tracy as being dangerous. So if this is going to be a technique versus technique battle, it's Rose 10 times out of 10. It's just a fact. She's not going to be able to keep the cardio up for 5 rounds. She's just not. Not a wrestle-heavy game plan, which is her contingency. The whole cutting the hair off thing, why didn't you just cut the extra half a pound? Were you that sucked out that it was better for you to cut your... But this is what I'm saying, is that is a big problem. That's a big problem. A lot of people will look at this and they get pumped up about it. She's ready for war. She's holding her ponytail and pointing to God. I'm sorry, no. If I have to shave hair off of my body to make weight because I can't suck another half pound out, I am affected by the elevation. I am affected by the short notice. You're affected by everything to have to do this. And we've seen it before with other fighters. Was it Jamal Emmers that cut his hair? And then he got knocked out by
that sounds about right.
Right?
I just know I saw Cortez was crying at the face-offs, and I don't know. She didn't look great. Rose just looked cool, collected, like walking.
She's bigger.
The park, and she's bigger.
That was shocking to me.
I just don't see the big wrestling advantage with Tracy Cortez. Like if for a 5-round fight, you better have a massive wrestle. Like you better be able to win 4 rounds. And I don't think Cortez can do that. I talked about this where I put Rose versus Amanda Ribas on one screen, and right next to it, I put Tracy Cortez and Jasmine next to it. And the speed on the feet difference that Rose has over Tracy Cortez, that's the other thing. Are we sure Tracy Cortez is even going to be able to get to Rose and get successful takedowns? Because from where I'm looking at it, Rose is going to be piecing her up at distance. Mm-hmm. That reach, I'm not really sure Tracy Cortez is going to be able to get to Rose. If she does, she's going to eat punches on the way in. And I think Rose on the feet is just going to be, much, much better than Tracy. Tracy's striking is rudimentary at best.
That's the exact word I was thinking. It's basic. It's very
basic. So you think that's going to scare Rose, who just fought the windmill of Ribas, who's throwing a million punches, who fought Firo,
who's one of the most technical strikers out there.
Strikers ever? Yeah, who's fought Wiley Zhang, and so I don't know. I think it's what's the line? Let me look and see what the time. It's only minus 230. I mean,
it's still not bad. I was all about this fight going to decision, and the condition that Tracy's coming into this fight has me off of it. And I think that's going to be a very popular pick, is Rose by decision. And I could see I was thinking about totals in this fight. Now I'm kind of almost swinging the other way. Look, you also brought up a great point. Wrestling-wise, in a 5-round fight, we've seen this recently. If there's somebody getting wrestled for the first 2 rounds, the striker that's getting wrestled doesn't have to do a lot in 3, 4, and 5 to win the rounds. No. Because why? Everybody hates wrestling. The judges hate wrestling. So if Rose lands anything on the feet where Tracy has 2 minutes of control time, they're giving it to Rose.
Absolutely.
Who's going to have more damage? Tracy's going to be way more beat up than Rose. So I like this. I would not be shocked to see Tracy give up her neck at some point in this fight. But Rose's money line, I think, is so playable. Still,
It's better odds than Josh Vieta against Charles Johnson. That's wild. That's
what does
wild.
that tell you?
Wild. So, all right. So 4% best bet is up, guys. You know that. Go ahead and hit the like button. Leave us a comment. We're gonna do our Parlay Buster and our woulda, coulda, shoulda. So the Parlay Buster. Here's the thing. So the Parlay Buster. It's not just a play that we think is fade material. This is something that we think a lot of people are going to play. So we're not just going to pull something out of thin air. We're trying to pick what's the play that everybody is going to play that just like loses and everybody gets killed. And then we're going to do woulda, coulda, shoulda, which is at the end of the night, we're standing there looking at going, my God, why didn't we lay the farm on that one? So, Jim, I will let you go first. Parlay Buster. Jim, what you got?
I'm sticking to my guns for earlier in the week. I think it's Gabriel Bonfim. It's probably also, if we're talking about what people are playing, you can't really play that line straight, so it's probably Bonfim by finish. Round 2 starts, he's tired. Uh-oh. Some nervous people sitting there after that one. So I'm sticking with Gabriel Bonfim.
I will go the Abdul, Alhassan, and Cody Brundage fight to not go the distance. I think that's going to be a popular one, and just not sure these guys have the energy after round 1. It's going to be a greasy, gross round 1 if you have the over in that one, but we've seen some of these fighters where you expect it to not go the distance, and all of a sudden they're both tired and they're just hanging on for dear life. So I'll take the Brundage and Alhassan to not go the distance as the Parlay Buster. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. What are we going to regret not laying the farm on when all is said and done? What do you got, Jim?
I'm going to stick to my guns again. Now it's plus 142. On Monday it was plus 140. Plus money against Abdul Razak Alhassan. It's that simple. I don't care who the fighter is. If you're going to give that to me, I'm going to take it. It's that simple. I don't like Cody Brundage. He could get sparked in round 1. But the wrestling advantage that he is going to have, if, like you said before, he does the right game plan and runs across that cage and gets that takedown, that's going to look like the easiest plus 140 we have ever seen in our entire lives when he subs him in 2.5 minutes.
I think at the end of the night, we're going to look back and be like, man, I wish we had one more chance to fade Salikov, but he looked so bad. There's no way he's getting another fight. I think Pons dominates him, and I think Salikov, if he doesn't get finished in like the first 2 minutes, I think it's over. I know Pons doesn't have the best cardio in the world. He's not going to need it because Salikov's going to put on a clinic on what bad cardio looks like at altitude. So the man's 40 years old. He's looked terrible in his last couple fights. So I think at the end of the night, we're going to be like, man, why didn't we go all in on Pons? So there's your Parlay Buster. There's your woulda, coulda, shoulda. Thanks a lot for joining us, everybody. Make sure you hit the like button. Go grab that UFC 4% play. No reason not to jump on board. 66% on those 4% plays over the last 6 months. 18-10 MMA run as we're closing out a very, very strong 30 and 60-day run over at wagertalk.com. Good luck on all your plays. We will be live on the Winning in the Shadows YouTube channel. We'll be live, so if you want to join us and watch the fights with us, we'll do any live bets we got, any crazy things that come up in the middle of the card. It's a great way. I will tell you.
Come watch the cardio.
Come watch the cardio with us.
We're playing a drinking game, too, right?
Oh, that's right. What's the drinking game?
Every time the ref says, come on, let's work, we got to take a drink. After everybody's cardio's gone. We're going to have a good time.
When everyone's cardio's gone and they're just hanging out for dear life and the ref comes over and claps and says, come on, let's work. We've got to take a drink. What's the power of the live show? First off, it's a lot of fun, but more importantly, is it profitable? The very first fight of the last card, when it was very obvious that Ricky Simone was hurt, we live bet. I think I had 3 live bets against him.
Yeah.
And we're done betting for the night because you cashed on those live ones. And those are little things that you just can't see if you're not watching the fights live. And it feels like there's like one every single card where it was like we got a live line, gift. So join us on Winning in the Shadows. We'll be doing that live. So good luck on all your plays, and we will see everyone on the next big breakdown video. Have a great one.
See you guys tomorrow.